Hey everybody, welcome back to Colony Drop, your favorite Gundam podcast. My name is Isaac.
And my name is Brian, and this is a podcast where we talk about anything and everything related to the Gundam franchise. From the movies, to the animes, to the models, to the clothes, to the food, to the art, to the lore, the music, you name it, we do it all, Isaac.
That's absolutely right, Brian. And we're doing something we haven't done in a while, and that's talking about an actual Gundam series.
Oh, you don't count Victory Gundam?
You know what? Let's say this about Victory. We're like halfway through it, right? Or something like that. And we kind of had to hit the brakes and switch immediately to a much more interesting and well-done series. So that's all you need to know about Victory so far. We're going to come back to it. But right now it's, this was more important.
This was a little more topical.
Yeah.
I don't think our timing worked out exactly, but we're going to hit Witch from Mercury now, since it's the soup du jour of the day. So, I figured we should just accelerate it and talk about it because as of today, this is a Saturday. We're recording this on Saturday, what is it today, the 1st, July 1st? So I think it's actually,
yes.
I think the last episode, Isaac, is airing tomorrow or on Monday.
Really?
Yeah. So today, listeners, we are going to talk about /discuss/ review the first half of Witch from Mercury. I'm going to say season 1, Isaac. They haven't announced a season 2, but it's been pretty successful. There's only 24 episodes total in this first season. I feel like we're going to get a second season, but I could be wrong. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, hopefully we don't get a Reconquista or Gundam X'd,
Yeah.
where it's like, it was chugging along and then they knocked the legs out from under us.
It just seems like maybe they haven't told as a big enough story, at least here in the first half. So, Isaac, I don't really want to go back into the prologue because we did a whole episode about that. So if everyone wants to hear about the prologue, you can go listen to our prologue review. So I think we'll just pick it up from episode 1 instead of episode 0. That said, episode 0 had a lot of setup, which is pretty important to the rest of the series, actually. I feel like the prologue in this show is not really optional. I feel like it was pretty important.
Really? Oh, that's interesting. I almost felt the opposite.
Really?
Where we see some old faces from the prologue, of course. But at the same time, certain characters, like what happened to them in the prologue, we really almost never discuss it. We don't really see it. For me, I would definitely say the prologue is optional.
Really? Wow. Even with like Prospera, I feel like if you don't see the prologue, you don't really know much about her, right?
I know, but like there's still I feel like the mystery still works.
Yeah. Okay.
The lack of knowledge for, the science that was happening and stuff, it still works. Delling, the small bits we saw of him in the prologue, it still works seeing him now as the man he became.
Yeah, Delling is still an enigma either way, whether you watch the prologue or not.
Right, yeah, so.
Okay, so let's kick it off with just the little log line on Wikipedia here, Isaac. In Ad Stella 122, 21 years after the Vanadis incident, which is covered in the prologue, Suletta Mercury transfers from Mercury to the Astacasio School of Technology, an academic institution run by the mega-corporation Benaret Group. Upon arrival, she encounters a girl escaping the institute, Miarine Rembrandt, who wants to escape from the control of her father. As their paths cross in the academy with different ambitions and goals, Suletta will have to prove her worth as a pilot as she steps into the academy alongside the Gundam Ariel, a mobile suit built with the forbidden Gund format technology. And then we pick up.
Yeah.
Isaac, I'm pretty sure the only way you can really watch this is on Crunchyroll, at least over here in the U.S. Well, Isaac always has his ways.
You sweet summer child.
It always blows my mind because I feel like you subscribe to every streaming service except the ones that Gundam is on.
Yeah. You're kind of right there, but like, I think that's just the nature of anime, where if you want to watch something, it's not very hard to go watch it.
No, you just type it in Google and they show it to you. So
anime is as easy to find as anything else on YouTube. Let's just put it like that.
Yeah, that's fair. By the time it's done, this will have aired. Season 1 will have aired from July 2022 through July 2023. And they split it into 2, what they've called cours. I think that's how you pronounce it. C-O-U-R. I've never heard this term up until like a year ago when like anime started doing this. So everyone's calling the first 12 episodes Core 1, or maybe it's Cour, I don't know.
God, we thought the French were gone, and like now they're back invading anime.
With this new wording structure. I've been watching anime for like 25 years. I've never heard this.
Of all the words to use.
Anyway.
French.
Just call it like first half and second half. I don't know. But anyway, so we're only going to discuss the first half here, so that's 1 to 12. So some of our questions probably have been answered in the back half. At least I really hope they've been answered in the back half, Isaac.
Yeah.
Isaac, I really don't want to recap every single thing about this show because everyone's watching it right now, so I don't think that's super useful.
Right.
So why don't we just jump into our observations/questions?
Sure. I'm going to start almost with like the trope, right? Or should I say the counter trope? Here we start with Suletta having the Gundam right away.
Oh.
I wrote, wow, we start with the Gundam right away. No nonsense about like a colony attack and she gets thrown into the cockpit, or she's not the chosen one and like it only turns on for her. Nothing like that. She just has this from the get-go.
That's very true, and it is sort of a welcome change. I mean, that was one of our tropes that we said sort of needed to be broken, right? Or at least done a different way. So I was okay with it. So yeah, it's very different.
You said it right there, Brian. Different. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, ahead of my notes. This might even be better at the conclusion, but this whole experience so far with just these 12 episodes I can only describe it as a breath of fresh air with how different Suletta is from the Gundam Pikes we've experienced, how different the story and the setting are. The animation's beautiful. Not that there's been terrible recent animation, but it just looks very great.
Well,
just overall,
keep in mind, listeners, we went from watching Victory Gundam directly to Witch from Mercury. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen Victory Gundam, but man, bless the show's heart, because I think the intent was there, but sometimes the execution on that animation was maybe not the best, and this show, like you said, is gorgeous.
Oh, it's gorgeous. The setting's great and so interesting and rich. It's just, it was a very welcome, very enjoyable breath of fresh air.
Isaac's eyes were bleeding from Victory.
Yeah, I was just...
and now they're okay again.
Squeezing my Degwin body pillow, just so happy.
Oh, Degwin, why did you have to leave me?
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
But yeah, you're right. And I'm assuming that was their goal with this show, Isaac, was just do something totally different. It almost doesn't feel... You could call it something else, and I would be fine with that. It's not even necessarily doesn't have to be a Gundam show.
Yeah, it's like at times it's like Gundam MBA or like Space Business School Mech,
right? Yeah,
the anime series, because like how interesting it is that we're not even at a war. Like in 12 episodes, they have one battle, and I mean battle as in the sense of they're really trying to kill each other. We have one battle, and it's such a small scale incident. I think it was less than 5-on-5. Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, relative to what we would consider normal battles in other Gundam series, you're right. The battle at Plant Quetta, which is basically the climax of the first half, is somewhat small scale. I mean, there was only a few ships involved.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not sure who you want to call the good guys, but, one team was using 6 suits, I think, tops, and the other team was using 4 to 10. So that's not a lot from what we're used to seeing.
Absolutely not. And interesting for a setting as well, since that battle itself seemed pretty sort of underhanded, almost, criminal versus business interests. This isn't a setting where there's, seemingly, to our knowledge now, after 12 episodes, it's pretty clear there isn't like a major war going on. They don't even refer to a war going on somewhere distant. There's definitely tension between different groups. The Megacorps kind of run the show, clearly. I don't even think they talk about another type of government. But yeah, what an interesting beginning for a new series.
2 points on that you just brought up about there not being a war. What is going on in this world, Isaac? Because we get a little bit of background about what happened in the past, where we saw some flashbacks of sort of the Spacians, not abusing the Earthians, but they seem to be, corralling them, I'll say, on Earth in sort of maybe, I don't want to say slums, but it definitely wasn't the best kept up area. Yeah. And we find out that the Earthians are upset because they depend on Spacian capital, I assume, to give them jobs. But the Spacians, they put them in bad labor conditions. And then the Spacians sort of spent their money and then they left. And they sort of ruined Earth. They said that the business administrative laws were used to sort of accomplish all that. It just seems like business is in charge of everything here. But it didn't really allude to a war. So has there never been a war in this? Is that what you took away?
Or if there was, it must have happened so far in the past that Earth clearly lost. And that's why the brief incident we saw where like the protesters really pretty much went up against tanks.
Yes. Well, and few suits, right? Like they were just kind of
Yeah.
standing there.
Right, yeah. So it's pretty clear the Spacians pretty much run Earth the same way, not too long ago, or even now, if you want to look at it that way. The more wealthy nations in the world control like a lot of the more poor ones. So they're very much into using them as a cheap labor force, extracting their resources. It's very clear from the characters that we meet right away what almost everybody thinks about Earth. At least the much more powerful characters, the much more wealthy and influential students, what they think about Earth. Very few of them seem to be a bit more open to be nice to, Earthians, or having a kind thing to say about Earthians. And the Earthians at the school that we see are definitely they're not the A team, and they definitely lack for confidence.
Yeah, they have less resources, and maybe their execution is not always on point. But they're lovable, those Earthians at the school.
Yeah, they're all underdogs, and they stick together, and yeah, even their area is like kind of farther away from like the nicer areas on the space station.
Hey man, real estate's cheap. You got to move far away if you want if you want an affordable living arrangement.
Sort of interesting also is that the Spacians absolutely do not get along with each other.
No, not at all.
There's a lot of jockeying amongst themselves. Some of them view themselves as better than other types of Spacians. Suletta's looked down on. Mercury's clearly looked down on as a backwater. There's a lot of things going on as far as relationships, and everyone's connected to like a megacorp family that's really running things. Just a very rich and interesting setting, and you really had to kind of pay attention and listen to pick up on conversations about how it all relates and interweaves.
That leads into my second question on that. So one of the houses, or one of the corporations, is Jeturk Heavy Machinery, I believe, and Mr. Jeturk, I guess, I forget his first name. He makes a comment that like when they're talking about letting Ariel be and being able to learn from it instead of just confiscating it. He says, oh, well, the other companies are gaining in market share on mobile suits recently. So maybe it would be good if we could like see what this thing can do and, use it for ourselves. But like, what are people in this world using mobile suits for, Isaac, if they're not fighting a war? I mean, look, I love mobile suits, but they really only have one purpose.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. And a few characters later on say things like, "Oh, the weapon industry is stagnating. This Gundam thing would be a good opportunity." But again, that raises the question of, well, we haven't really seen a war happen. I don't even think they've referred to one happening like way out in the distance by, who knows, maybe Jupiter or something like that, another solar system. Maybe they should have done that so that we'd be kind of like, oh, okay, of course Earth is still supplying weapons and stuff, and space is supplying weapons to whatever's going on over there. But yeah, we didn't really get that unless this is just a case of, well, this is a time of peace, but people are absolutely still building and supplying and storing up weapons just in case.
Yeah, maybe they want to start a war, I guess, is the implication. But
right, or I mean, the corporations clearly have more or less standing armies, so this might be a case of, well, there isn't a war, but everybody's still arming themselves and working on some weapons just to stay sharp.
Yeah, that's fair.
Just from the get-go, from episode 1, oh my God, so many women characters. This is another breath of fresh air, another new kind of territory in Gundam. I mean, we had the Shrike team, sure, but dare I say it's majority female characters? Not by a huge margin, but by a sizable lead.
I would say that's definitely true on the student side. And even on the older
the
character
corpse
side, I would say it's at least 50-50, yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
They even got that corporation that's like 4 women siblings, the quadruplets or whatever they're called.
Yeah, apparently they're all co-CEOs, which I thought was funny.
Well, I mean, if they're all sisters, I imagine that would probably be pretty stable, right? They all know each other by now, so.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if they'll explain more about them, because is that the same house that has the enhanced guy, Elon? Or
yes,
Ellen?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you think they're actually sisters, or they're all just... Like, maybe one of them is real and 3 are numbers 2, 3, and 4.
Or there's a 5
could be,
that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
She never shows her face because those little drones are out doing whatever she tells them to do.
Yeah, that's what I would bet on. That would be a neat twist, but I don't know.
Okay. I thought it was kind of weird that they all look the same,
right,
and then they all look different. I was like, well, are they actually related, or are they from like a culture that's in space? Everyone on that colony is blue and blonde-eyed, blue-eyed and blonde-haired.
Yeah, I believe they have a name for that colony. I think it was area.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
Interesting. You had me going there because I was like Ariel, and then I was like Aryan, and I was, no.
You can't see me, listeners, but I have blue hair.
Yeah.
I have blue eyes and blonde hair. But you're right. Even if by the end of the show, if ignoring the prologue, 3 out of the 4 Gundam pilots in the show are female. You have Suletta, Sophie, and Nerea, I think was the other one's name.
Prayers have been answered, Brian.
And also, Isaac, you mentioned how like rich the design is of the show. I want to know more about the physical design of the school, because I think it's pretty neat. It reminds me of a lot of those when we did the colony episode about the old colony art you could see in like the 70s. The school looks like sort of 4 terrariums that sort of rotate around an asteroid. It's like definitely a step away from the grittiness and the real, I'll say realism in quotes, of the Universal Century. I want to just know more about how it works and like what it does. It's like very different than an O'Neill cylinder.
Yeah, absolutely. You could almost do an episode on just the different space colonies we've seen just in these first 12 episodes, because it's such a new, fresh take. Not a single O'Neill colony or any type of colony we've seen before. It almost looks like the approach in this universe is they find an asteroid and then they slap the colony onto the asteroid. Yeah, nothing can be built standing on its own. It has to be attached to an asteroid. They all have kind of like this white color scheme, but they all seem very spacious, so that was cool.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was really neat. It was a good, again, breath of fresh air. So
everyone unique. None of them looked the same, so that was cool. So it made it feel like each one probably was purpose designed by each corporation that actually owns it. They'd absolutely not look the same.
A lot of this show was so fresh that every time a fresh thing came on the screen, I was like, oh, I want to know more about that. But then there wasn't enough time because, there's not that many episodes in this show. So we're not going to get a lot of background. It's just kind of like, well, here it is, and draw your own conclusions.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But man, cool visuals just from the get-go. Speaking of different and interesting things, Suletta is just so different than most Gundam pilots we've seen, and not just because of her gender, but because of just her personality. She's like a fish out of water that can be nervous and insecure so quickly, right?
Yep.
And we got that with a lot of young pilots too in previous series, but Suletta almost like she really approaches a level of being, frantic and kind of falling apart under pressure, sometimes rising to the occasion too. But she's very emotional and almost I don't even know the archetype term for her character. That's just sort of a comedic klutz.
Yeah. If I had to describe her, in like 3 words, right? Klutz, naive,
adorably shy, and
and endearing. Endearing is what I wrote down for her.
Yeah, there you go.
I like Suletta a lot. She has the little keychains. She has her little phrases she says, like Suletta forget to. She does that like safe call, when whatever his name is trying to kiss her or whatever. I will say though, while I like her, Isaac, she's not really what I expected. I expected like a quote strong female protagonist, and I don't know if she's that. Like, I like Suletta, but if someone was looking for a strong female protagonist from the show, are they satisfied with her? Or is she too klutzy and too weird?
I'm not sure at the beginning, definitely. I can see her being a bit of a disappointment to some people. But by the end, based on something she does in the final episode, she absolutely transforms into someone that you can absolutely count on to save you, I think.
Yeah, what do you think about her as a pilot, though? Like, I'm actually not sold on her yet as a pilot because most of her winning is her using the gun bits sort of to her advantage and her Gundam just basically being better than everyone else. And then even when she, like, overcomes things, it's that sort of magical overwhelm, I'm just going to try harder, and it kind of works out. Like when they bring out the anti-Gund technology and she just, like, tries harder and then it just, like, a big circle shows up and it just can't, what do they call it? The antidote. It cancels out the antidote and they're just like, that doesn't work after Permet score 3. And it's like, oh, well, okay, like, I guess that's good.
Yeah, that's an interesting question to throw to me because I'm kind of conflicted with how she did in situations where lives were on the line.
Yeah.
And then how she did at the school training, which was horrible. Under controlled circumstances, she does terrible, like routinely. But outside, when there's actually like fighting, and people are dying, she manages to pull things off. So I guess she's somebody that like under pressure, things work out. But the rest of the time, you couldn't count on them to like, mail an envelope or something. you know?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we get more. I'm sure we will of her fighting more seriously in the back half with maybe the other two, female Gundam pilots, Sophie and Araya. I assume we're going to see them again. So those seem like good opponents for her.
Speaking of those two Gundams, though, not a fan of the design. I felt like those were pretty bad colors to pick for villains. They almost like they wanted a color to match the ship that they came in. Not a fan of the two villain Gundams we see out the gate. And I'm not including, other mobile suits we saw, like what was the one Elan piloted?
Yeah, he piloted the Ferract.
Okay, that wasn't a Gundam, though, was it? Even though it kind of had a face?
They said it was a Gundam, so I'm counting that one as a Gundam. Yeah, it's actually called Gundam Ferract or Ferract.
That one, much more interesting looking. Technically not an opponent, because I feel like even though they fought, it wasn't to the death. All those school fights, I never really considered those like her actual enemies, because it clearly seems like when the chips are down, they're all on the same side.
Yeah.
For the actual enemies that we first see, I wasn't too impressed.
I agree. They're very bland, and something is off about them on the proportions. The Lefrith Thorn, the legs are too short. It looks very strange. I don't like it. The Lefrith is just a little boring. It also seems a little bit too stocky. They're very bland, which is very surprising given the other mobile suits. They definitely weren't as bland as those. It's the same. I feel the same way about the Delonza, which we already talked about, I think, in the one episode. That's just too short and stocky for me. So I have the same problem with those as I do the Delonza. But I like the Ferract. Yeah, I thought that was a good one. It's very evil looking. And I think that was the point.
Yeah, it definitely matches it. Actually, I thought Elan would have like something that was maybe more neutral looking, because he's kind of a understated guy, But that was pretty more sinister.
It looks very artificial, which matches him.
Okay. Speaking of evil looking, what did you think of the new Char clone?
Lady Prospera.
No, well, actually, see, that's
okay,
interesting.
Fair.
It's almost as if they split Char, right?
That's a good point. So which one are you talking about?
I'm talking about Blondie.
Blondie, okay. Shattuck.
Which, dare I say, is maybe the real identifier of the Char clone is the blonde hair.
That's a good point.
Because we know that mask is not going to stay there the whole time.
It's a hell of a mask. So yeah, I guess I'll answer both parts.
Yeah, let's do it.
So Shattuck, I thought was great. I thought he was the most compelling of the younger antagonists. So out of Ghoul, Elan, and Shattuck, I definitely like Shattuck the most. He clearly is the most mastermindy of them all.
Yeah.
Maybe the most interesting thing was I thought it did seem, at least in a few instances, that he did have real feelings for Miorine, and that those feelings were returned, at least somewhat. But then at the same time, he did orchestrate the attack on the plant at the end, and he's like, well, if she's lucky, she'll survive. And I was like, well, okay, maybe you don't love her that much. But
very Char, yeah.
Yeah. But I liked him. Did you like him?
I was trying to figure it out. I was like, well, there's no mask.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, he's the only blonde guy here, so we know who he is. And then a lot of things kind of raised the red flag for me, where I was like, he's an orphan.
Yeah,
okay.
There you go.
Well, we're going to learn about his parents. And then just how, out of all the characters, he was the only one that was consistently superficially charming.
Yeah.
Even to people he doesn't really need to be. Like at the investment meeting where he used whatever her name was, the roast beef, because she clearly, I don't know what her problem was. They were only serving one type of food. Just take it.
So I made a special note about the food for you, Isaac. Did you notice that the food served at that place was a perfect representation for basically every wedding that you've ever been to that serves the steak or the chicken with the mashed potatoes and the vegetables. And the mashed potatoes are always the best part.
You know what? I'm actually surprised that they only really were serving one thing, because for that much money in that building, there should have been like a huge spread, right, of all kinds of different things,
more options.
But
yeah.
Instead, somebody wanted to save money and was like, "Look, there's going to be roast, some asparagus, and that's about it."
Yeah, you get your 3 asparaguses, 2 carrots, and like 1 like purple potato, and like that's it.
You know what? Now I don't blame her for taking her time because, like, she probably got to the table hungry and she was like, well, it's all the same thing, so I just need to pick whichever one is the best cut, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
But anyways, back to Blondie. He's a snake in the grass. He is his mask. I'm going to go ahead and say that superficial outer shell of him always being charming and happy is the mask.
Oh, I like that interpretation.
Underneath it is when we learn about the whole background of his family, whatever that is, we're going to find out he's just a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Well, and to his credit, he's really going for it. I mean, he started the operation 2 hours early to try to kill Jeturk, and it worked in a very bad way for our friend Ghoul. Is that how they pronounce his name in the dub? Ghoul?
I don't think it was Ghoul. I think it was something
else.
I think so.
Oh, whatever.
But whoa, that poor guy, he had a bad day.
Yeah, that memory's going to last a while.
Definitely should have not established contact after stabbing the cockpit.
Got to check those call signs next time. I don't know. Okay, but switching back to the other half of Char,
yes,
Prospera.
Lady Mask.
If I think of it just about the mask for a second, do we think it's a good evolution of the mask? I think so. It's different than all the other masks. It's not just another papier-mâché mask or whatever Zex's was made out of. It supposedly serves a purpose. Her cover story is a lot better than the cover story that Char gave in Origin. I'll give her that.
That would be great. I lost my arm and my eyesight playing lunar rugby.
The only thing about the mask, Isaac, is I think it's one of those things where I think the mask looks cool now, but, like, will it age well? Like, in 10 years, will someone say, wow, Prospera's mask looks stupid?
That's a good question.
Because, like, Char's mask has kind of stood the test of time a little bit.
Yeah, probably because it's so close to, like, a normal mask. Hers, though, we're meant to believe those are, like, optical sensors on her face. But I suspect there's going to be a situation where she takes it off or the mask falls off, and we're going to see that she's probably normal underneath.
Oh, absolutely. I think she's normal.
Yeah. The robot arm was the only thing. But the face thing, no, that's all for show.
Yeah.
And not to segue too much, but after War Gundam X, the United Nations Earth's, their version of the GM, it has the optical sensors are in the exact same format as hers.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I think that was maybe a throwback to the, I think they're called Daughtresses, the Daughtress series of mobile suits. Yeah. They look a lot the same. But, oh God, even though she's wearing a mask, she is absolutely just confidently rolling around, the system, just doing all kinds of deals and little tricks and stuff.
Absolutely. So I wrote down biggest question number 1 and biggest question number 2 after the first half. And she is biggest question number 1. What is her goal, Isaac? Why is she acting now all of a sudden and so brazenly, to your point? Obviously by coming to the school, sending Suletta there with the aerial, people were going to know that it was a Gundam right away, which to Delling's credit, he did, right? When they were at that little hearing, and then she's like, it's not a Gundam, and he's like, no, it's a Gundam. Like, F you. I was, like, so glad that he called BS on that right away, because everyone was like, come on now, like, look at it. It looks exactly like the one that we saw before, and it does all the same things. And at the very end, she's getting a little bit manipulative with Suletta, encouraging her to fight in such a direct way. She's all of a sudden helping Delling finish whatever Quiet Zero is. That's another question. We'll get to that in a second. It must be something worth doing. Is it revenge? It can't just be revenge, though. Why doesn't she could just kill Delling when she's talking to him, but she's helping him. What is this woman doing? There's
going to be a plot that's going to take a while to unfold, but I think this is like a type of layered revenge, or she's here to break down the whole Benneret group, and she's going to help the witches revive or something like that. I don't know, but it has to be big, though, right? It's brewing, yeah. It's boiling in the pot, Brian.
Oh, I love the pun. Do you see what he did there, everyone? I hope you... I'm going to timestamp that.
Boiling in the cauldron, I should have said. Like a witch's brew. God, some of those meetings were so interesting. Like, it was such very good writing, right? Where she's making her points, and then like they're accusing her back. Like, look, you're kind of saying you're innocent because we don't have enough evidence, but you're not really proving. It was such an interesting back and forth.
Yeah, they were like, prove it's not a Gundam. She's like, you can't prove it is a Gundam. So, ha. Yeah. They were like, that doesn't matter. She's like, yes, it does.
Delling just has so much power. Like, certain meetings, it's like, well, we almost don't need to discuss that much because Delling's going to tell us what to do anyway.
Right. Or he'll just refuse to act like he did when they finally started the Gundam thing.
At the startup meeting, all he really had to do was like invest like the smallest amount of money, and then everybody else just bum rushed. You
Yep,
know?
yep. My favorite part about that was after the fact when he was like telling Miorine like how well she did, right? And
Yeah.
instead of saying like, you know what, you did a great job, he like chided her about accepting some convertible bonds because they're going to dilute her ownership later. And I was like, is someone on the staff like, do they have a background in finance? Like, this is really random to be like, you did good except for those convertible bonds. You really f***ed up right there.
That's what's so interesting too about this setting. Just one of the writers clearly had to know, right? Because, God, in so many scenes, like they're like, "Oh, I specialize in business management," and then someone else is like, "Oh, well, we're having a meeting today, and we're going to talk about try not to dilute the shareholder equity."
I gotta say, this is the most exciting business ever gets, though, people. If you're like in school or like gonna go to college and thinking about business, I guarantee it's not gonna be like this when you get out. So
There's not mass meetings where people decide to
No.
invest in startups through their phones.
that's not how it works. Maybe on Shark Tank, but beyond that,
Your space colony doesn't get attacked by space pirates.
it's not an everyday occurrence.
Okay, well, moving along, what did you think of maybe not our big bad after all, Delling?
So he's my biggest question number 2.
Oh,
As a character, he's fine. He serves his purpose in this first half, but like we don't know anything about him, Isaac. What is his beef with Gundams? Why does he hate them so much? My theory is that his wife must have died due to one somehow, whether piloting it, whether being killed by it, because he obviously tried to eradicate them in the prologue, and now he's sort of willingly accepting help from Prospera, who he knows is really Elnora. I feel like he must want to use Gundam for something. Is it to bring his wife back? Is he like Mr. Freezing this show, Isaac?
that's a good question. I don't think we're gonna get like a Rust-out alien situation with him. Well, he might be going down for the count. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, the way episode 12 leaves off, he's not doing so great.
From what we've seen, I don't think he's the big bad. There's no way he's the big bad in the end. He's going to get replaced, pushed out, maybe die, but it's not him.
I agree. I don't think he's the big bad at the end either. That would be too simple.
Yeah, but what he's actually after, who knows? Why the zeal against witches, and it's pretty clear some other elements of the Benneret group are not maybe okay with them, but a little bit less concerned. I definitely see the witches coming into play as more episodes come.
They were pretty effective. Their leader guy, Naji, I think was his name. He was cool. He reminded me a lot of the guy from Unicorn who captained the Garancier or whatever it was called. The Xeon guy.
Oh, yeah. Right, same kind of almost animation, right? The big guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess there's sort of a pro-Earthian rebel group?
With some resources. I mean, they've got Gundams and they can pilot them.
Maybe they're being helped clearly by certain elements in the Benneret group.
Yeah, speaking of Delling, I assume everyone who's watched the show past us probably knows this now, but what do you think Quiet Zero is? It seems like a super weapon, perhaps, maybe a colony laser, but I don't know why you would need aerial data for that. I mean, it's a laser, you just point and shoot.
Yeah, it must not be. It must be a, maybe it's a Neo Zeong type thing, where like a Gundam has to interface in it, and it's a giant mobile suit.
Ooh,
or
okay.
mobile armor.
I can see that.
Something epic on scale.
That's good. I hadn't thought of that. I was thinking more like hard sci-fi. Like, is it like a true AI type of thing? The name Zero is interesting. My joke answer for this, Isaac, is it's Unit Zero from Gundam Wing. This is where they actually built it because we got so little like background on that in the show.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really know what it is. It's clearly the building mystery. So. Okay, so you're taking Neo Zeong. I'm gonna say it's some sort of AI thing, but it's in like a big area, so maybe you're onto something there, size wise.
I'd figure there'd be a large scale, more cinematic device or armor or something like that where they're gonna need, and for all we know, it's gonna end up being powered by like the blood of witches or something.
Yeah.
They'll say something wacky. That's where the witches were taken. Oh, there you go.
There you go. Yeah, it's like an Angel Halo situation, sort of.
Yeah. Speaking of Angel Halo and little tropes like colony drops or Gundam weapons of mass destruction, Brian, are you glad that we got something to add to the list of strikes and punches in Gundam history? We now have the Suletta spank.
Wait, she spanked someone?
Remember Ghoul? She spanked his butt.
Oh, no, I don't remember that.
They were in like the greenhouse.
Oh, yeah, and she was making him apologize.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right. Yeah, I am glad. I'm especially glad because of the alliteration, the Suletta spank. You know, that's
there you
perfect.
Go, yeah. Bright slap, Suletta spank.
I have a sticker of the Bright Slap. Now I want a sticker of the Suletta spank. So someone get on it.
But what else is on your list, Brian?
This is something that's been bothering me, and again, maybe this has been answered in the back half, Isaac, but the math isn't adding up here. Okay, so the prologue took place in Ad Stella 101, which, by the way, Ad Stella is the calendar here. And Eri was 4. The rest of the show takes place in Ad Stella 122, but Suletta's 17. So it's only been 13 years since she was 4, but 21 years have passed in the real world.
Huh.
Did Elnora put her in stasis? Is Suletta not Eri?
Did they fudge the application at the school?
Maybe. Is she older? Is that why she's so tall?
Those Mercury records.
Prospera does call Suletta and Ariel her daughters. Suletta does refer to the Gunvits as everyone. I don't know. Is there a chance that Suletta's not Eri? But that doesn't make sense. She would need... I mean, her dad died.
Well...
You can't get another one.
As we saw with Elan, you clearly can swap in fakes of yourself.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
So it's possible something else is going on here, but I'm going to say poor writing.
It can't be that poor. You would catch that on day one. Come on.
I mean, things happen.
That's intentional.
Okay. We'll see how that unfolds then. I can't really answer that, but if the numbers don't make sense. Time dilation between Mercury and the rest of the solar system, because time moves differently depending on what planet you're on. I don't know.
That requires you to be moving at a very high rate of speed, which they are not.
No.
So I don't know. Something's going on there, but hopefully that's been answered. Unless I have those numbers wrong. But I'm pretty sure those are the facts. So
yeah.
What's next on your list, Isaac?
Next on my list is something that it's very unique to this series, and I'm going to actually kind of say it's a bit of a negative because it flows against the setting. And that's the whole, if you beat me in a duel, we're engaged. Because in this world where the people dueling at the school are the heirs of these massive fortunes and corporations, and as much dealing and precise, meticulous detail clearly these corporations do when dealing with each other, there's no way in hell they would ever consent to like their children being engaged to some other corporation's heir, just at something so trivial as a duel. That rubbed me the wrong way. It didn't make sense to me in the setting, and I thought it was kind of a mistake.
I agree, and the way I thought about this was that must have been the conceit of the show. Like, that must have been the pitch. Because a lot of the first half, besides the last 2 episodes, is really all about dueling. And, like, I honestly didn't think the show was going to revolve so much around dueling. I guess it sort of makes sense because you're at a school and you can't be, like, killing people every day with your mobile suit. But you're right. There's, like, one line in the show, right, where they just say, well, Delling decided that Miorine would marry whoever the holder is. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense given what we know about Delling. So either that's completely like BS and he's just doing it to like mess with everybody and he's totally not going to honor it, or it's just terrible writing.
Not only that, but like it as we saw, you could end up in a situation where you're engaged, where 2 women got engaged.
Right. Yep.
So I thought that was very progressive of the series to show that.
Right away too. That was episode 1.
Yeah. Right. I would assume that mean they'd have 2 men get engaged, depending on who wins.
Yeah, could
right?
be. Could be.
So, yeah. And something else I noticed about this series that was very progressive, besides just that, 2 women getting engaged, and then also the number of women, was Elan. Or at least the clone Elan, the double Elan, fake Elan. He was really effeminate out of, like, all the men, you know?
Oh, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I mean, obviously we didn't get too much more on him given his fate, no. But yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that for sure. That was pretty sad, his demise. Definitely called back to the prologue and the happy birthday.
Brian, he does not have a soul.
You don't think so? I mean, he was. Well, how do you think that process works? I mean, he is a real person, right? They just gave him a new face.
Yeah, it seemed to be. And then I don't know. I figured the deal would be, well, we're gonna switch you back once you're, done with the job, but not,
Nope, nope.
we put you in front of that microwave.
The thing that bothered me about that the most wasn't actually the execution, because the execution was okay, if not a little vague, right? They didn't give us a huge amount of information about exactly what he was. Maybe we'll get that in the back half. I don't know. But what it reminded me a lot of, Isaac, is how they treated new types in Double O, where like all of a sudden like one of the pilots was a new type, and or I'm gonna say cyber new type, right? And his mind was a little messed up, and he had his girlfriend who was also a cyber new type, and then it just seems like they try to get that angle in every show somehow, and sometimes it's unnecessary. So I don't know if it's really necessary here.
No, it's not, and I really want to learn more about why is this even happening with Primalon.
Yeah.
It's such a bizarre thing to do. Like, what else are you doing with your day?
Yeah. Now, if you're right, and maybe there's a Suletta Prime out there that's older, and they relate it, and it comes back to that, then I could see that being a big deal. But if he's going to be the only guy that we see like that, Isaac, I do feel like it's a little unnecessary.
Yeah, and are we on the same page that Delling is probably not okay with this?
Yeah, I would say not. I mean, what's weird is Delling seems to trust Prospera more than he trusts any of the three houses.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. He definitely views her as like an equal when they're dealing.
He's not welcoming, but he's definitely treating her like an equal, yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't really kind of bark orders at her as he does everybody else.
Right.
So maybe they've met before. Oh, that's it.
Oh, they have to have met before.
Maybe they're in a duel. They were in a duel once, and they were going to get engaged, and then something happened. It broke off.
Well, I don't know about that, but
no. I'm telling you, these duels break hearts.
Speaking of breaking hearts, it feels like it's very dangerous to allow students to like walk into the battlefield when a duel is happening. How has one student not died yet? It just seems like not okay. Did they sign permission slips for this when you enter the school?
You have to. Oh God, that school's such like a Wild West. As beautiful as it is, like those useless bodyguards standing around while like the bullies wrecked the greenhouse.
Yeah.
The instructors on the battlefield, to your point, boy, they run a tight ship, don't they? Like, oh, there's something wrong. Enemy team sabotage your mobile suit. Well, it's up to you to like. You got to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, yeah, and like when the whoever it was screwed over Suletta by turning on the sprinklers, they were like, "Well, that's just part of the rules. You use your network and you call in your help." And I was like, "Man, that's not very fair."
That was another problem I had, and I wrote that down. I am not a fan of the water stopping the beam because that's ridiculous. These beams that punch through like hyper dense alloys and melt them completely are stopped by water, dissipated by water. Get the heck out of here. Are you out of your mind? That beam should have like given off a column of steam going horizontally across the battlefield. Nonsense. Just pure nonsense. That was weak writing. That's a thumbs down.
I can buy it if you're underwater. And we see that sometimes in the UC, right? I think they even say that in the original show. Like, the beams aren't as powerful underwater, which I get that. That makes sense. You're under a lot of water, and the beam's not just going through a little bit. But yeah, here it was just kind of like, oh, it's raining. Bummer, your beams don't work anymore. And I was like, man, you guys should be carrying squirt guns into, like, battle.
Yeah, or, like, regular ballistic rounds would have been so much more effective, right? They don't care about the rain.
Did you catch that, though? Ballistic rounds are banned for space junk reasons.
Right. I thought, well, they were in the school, so I figured, well, actually, it would have been safer in the school to actually use, like, rubber ballistic rounds or something, right?
Or paintball, which we saw, like, in 083, right?
Right, yeah, but...
No, they just use beams. Straight up deadly beams.
Yeah. One of the space pirates said that, right? He was like, hey, how dare you pollute space?
Yeah, which actually makes sense, because if you think about it, given all the space travel in the Universal Century and the millions and millions of pounds of debris that must be out there, including bullet casings, they must have an incredibly efficient and organized space junk cleanup program in the Universal Century to be able to continually, transit to and from Earth.
Brian, we know they do, and you know their name.
What's their name?
Oh, maybe not. The Bunch Concern.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Which
that's
became
true.
the Rona family. That's how they made their money. They cleaned up all the shoal zones and battlefields
that's right.
and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Got all that scrap metal money and built a private army.
Yeah. They should show that. I want an OVA about trash cleanup.
Yeah, right? Like, they don't tell us really the company, and at the end they reveal it's Bunch Concern. And we're like, oh. Brian, if your bank account had like 20 zeros at the end of it,
Right.
Would you would you want your children, your teenage children, going to a school where in duels they might end up engaged to somebody?
No, no, it doesn't make any. That's why I'm saying the whole thing is like they go through all these machinations to backstab everyone, but then the thing that really matters is like duels at a school that they don't even really have control over.
Yeah.
It just makes zero sense, and that's why I'm saying I think they came up with a duel concept first, and then they layered everything on afterwards, and then by that point you're like, oh crap. In like retrospect, the duel thing doesn't make sense based on everything that we put around it, but we already put everything around it, and we got to go.
It feels almost a little Harry Potter. Right?
It's exactly. It's very Harry Potter. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And remember, I said this show would be like Harry Potter with houses.
So yeah, and the witch reference and all that. It's maybe the corporate heads kind of let it go because they know. Well, if you think about it, this isn't as severe as you think because almost the next day you can guarantee you'll be engaged to somebody else.
And they all kind of got lucky that they have kids that are the same age that can be there at the same time competing for that. Because like if you don't have kids that are that age, you're just screwed, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of bizarre too that it trumps everything. You know, like what if the two women aren't attracted to each other? What if two men get engaged and like one of them's okay with it and the other one's not?
Well, then it's just like The Bachelor. They do it on the show, but then afterwards they're like, and 6 months later they split up.
Yeah. Oh, maybe there's no divorce in this world. Oh, that's so.
How do you enforce that? Does Cathedra also enforce that?
There's mergers and acquisitions and massive business deals, but these engagements, these bizarre dueling engagements, they're set in stone. It's all, It doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's very strange.
Interesting for sure, but I don't see the corporations going along with it at all.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I want to see the end result where they say, okay, well, this is what's going to happen. They wouldn't be okay with it. It would result in the same coup that we saw in episode 12.
Yeah.
Like they would just fight about it, right?
True, yeah, or I don't know. Just have another duel, and like you'll get out of it. It's that easy.
Oh yeah, you could just keep having more duels until you're satisfied.
Yeah.
Another negative, Isaac, is at least I thought. I mean, maybe it's not a negative. I guess this is subjective. I was not a huge fan of both the opening and the ending songs. Neither of them did anything for me.
Yeah, I'm right with you on that. I gave the first one a couple listens, and then I was like, nope.
Yep, I skipped it every time after.
Ending, I hit skip right away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is 12 episodes. We still got a lot more episodes, I hope. So, we'll see how things go. But this won't be added to my playlist.
No, 100% agree. So I'd be curious of your thoughts on that, listeners. Or do you love this one? Am I just like that out of touch? Because these I'm kind of they did nothing for me. And it's interesting that we had the same opinion. So
that's true. Could be generational.
Yeah. I don't know.
What did you think of the Gundam Medical Company? You know what? I like that song more. The Gundam Inc. song more.
Oh, I love the song. I think we're gonna sing it and put it at the end of this episode.
You know what? It had nothing to do with what their product was. That stupid video. Like, well, I didn't even know they're gonna make a video, and then they're still working like the medical legs. I thought that was weird, watching those legs kind of run around, a little uncanny valley. But
it was like watching that one company that makes those robotic four-legged dog things. I'm sure they meant to ape that a little bit.
Right? Yeah, that's a good point. Gundam Medical Company was not on my bingo card for the Witch from Mercury.
Well, I mean, that was Cardo's whole thing from the prologue. Like, that's what she wanted to do with the technology, remember? So, I could see it coming back. I still think Cardo's not dead, but we'll see. Maybe she's Quiet Zero, you know? I don't know.
Ooh, she's like a brain in a giant mobile suit. They dogated her.
Yeah.
The ending really went from, 60 to 100 with the splat.
Oh, yeah. I called it the pancake in my notes.
The pancake. Got the strawberry Gundam pancake already.
Do you think Miorine was justified in calling her a murderer at the end?
I mean...
Because, like, Suletta saved her life, so...
Yeah, no, not her life, but Delling's life.
Right.
We're in the middle of a battle. Like, we kind of have to kill people just to survive. I felt like she jumped to the word murderer, but she might have meant you killed somebody, you know?
Yeah.
Which I know they sound sort of similar, but let me rephrase. In the middle of a battle, saying, oh, you killed somebody, almost like, wow, I've never killed somebody. I've never seen you kill somebody. But right now you just killed somebody and you saved me and, President Delling, so we can get the heck out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I'll forgive her for being emotional in the moment, but at the same time, show some thanks because you were about to get off yourself.
Yeah, maybe it was also because Suletta, like, she had, like, blood on her glove, and then she was a little campy about it, you know?
Yeah, I think the transition between Suletta being like uncertain about it and then to your point being all bloody and completely fine with it was probably too soon, right? That like there was no in between there. It did seem a little odd, but that was definitely a big shock factor for an ending.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure if, like, Suletta does she not have an emotional reaction to killing people, or is this part of just her personality, where she's kind of, awkward, kind of campy goof? It was a very odd tone to close out, and yeah, I didn't see it happening. Her first kill on screen like that with a mobile suit, but not against another mobile suit. How unusual, right? Yeah.
Yeah, very 8th MS teamy.
Speaking of going back to the past, like 8th MS team, does this school's logo absolutely look like the Titans logo to you?
Absolutely. I get them confused now
Yeah.
because I've been looking for Gundam stickers for my Gunpla toolbox.
Uh-huh.
And I keep seeing the damn school logo and thinking it's a Titans logo.
Right. Okay, I'm glad it wasn't just me, because I saw it. They showed it to us closer a lot of the times, and I'm like, oh my god, that's the Titans bird of prey.
Yeah, yeah, and I keep thinking to myself, wow, like, I'm shocked that there's so much Titans love out there, and then I realize that it's because this is the new show and everyone likes it, so.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that by putting that emblem as their school logo and stuff, that more episodes will reveal that these megacorps, they're not just kind of neutral bad, but they'll eventually be revealed to be pretty damn bad when things start getting worse.
Yeah, probably very bad. And I wonder if it has to do with Permet. So this is another question I have about the show, Isaac. What do we think Permet is? It's obviously the Adstella version of Minovsky particles, GN particles, etc. Mercury is the new Jupiter. The only real background we get, I think there was 2 different times they mentioned that one time they said Permet can be mined on the moon and Mercury, and they can now mine it on the moon. So it sounds like Mercury had that specialty before, and now that they can do it on the moon, that's why people left Mercury, because it's not necessary. You can just do it on the moon now. I mean, the phrase mining is interesting. Do you think that the Spacians forced the Earthians into mining Permet at some point, or do you think it's like a solid substance?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Because right now it's just phlebotinium, right? Or what was
Right,
the
yeah.
trope called?
Yeah, it's unobtainium.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, it's unobtainium right now. With
applied phlebotinum. It's pure nonsensium.
It's just red. It makes your face glow.
It's something we need to find out. And something else I'd like to find out is more about the witches, because we still haven't really been told specifically what they did and what they can do.
Right.
Right? It's very Phantom Menace Sith. We have the Jedi are running around like saying, "Oh God, there's a Sith Lord," or there's always 2 Sith. But like, no one ever really sits down and says, "Look, thousands of years ago, the Sith were these evil dark side users, and they're threatening to destroy the galaxy." Nobody even says like that one sentence. So I'm surprised nobody in the Benneret group said, "Ah, witches." My grandfather used to talk about the witches, and they would, they had the power to destroy, armies of mobile suits and stuff like that. So then we'd be like, "Oh, wow, that does sound like a problem." So I really hope they shed more light on witches. Maybe, for all we know, maybe witches are extremely comfortable with violence, and that's why it ended, like the season ended the way it did.
Oh, could be. Yeah, maybe she was repressing it
Yeah.
and she kind of just reverted back. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Speaking of the witches, Isaac, now you notice they only ever referred to Suletta, Nerea, and Sophie as witches. No one ever called Alana a witch. Would they call him a warlock?
Interesting. Or a wizard.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Or a wizard. Yeah.
I don't know. He gets too much privilege. You notice that?
Yeah, no one was calling him out, right?
No, right? He's got a Gundam too, and nobody made a big deal about that.
Yeah, they were like, you know what? You're right. We used one, but it was only because they had one, and we wanted to show that theirs was a Gundam. That's why we used ours. And I was like, okay, but like, aren't you just as guilty? You built your own.
Yeah, you know what that is? That's Galahorn logic. We're
absolutely, yeah.
We got to take out the Dane sleeve because the enemy's using weapons.
They looked at me with a funny face, so I'm just going to use a Dane sleeve now.
So yeah, I'd like more light shed on the actual science or Minovsky particle stand-in. If it is mined, then I guess that would maybe put a lot of emphasis on Luna and Mercury in the future episodes. Hopefully we get to see those.
Yeah, speaking of that, if you think about it, high level, if you take a step back, we didn't even see Mercury in the first 12 episodes. The show's called Witch from Mercury.
Not even in the prologue.
No. Show me Mercury.
Yeah, okay. Ooh, we might be getting ahead of ourselves, Brian. I don't know. Is there anything else on your list? Because I was about to say...
No, that's pretty much it, yeah.
Okay. Then let me transition us, Brian. What do you see coming down the train tracks? Clearly we're going to see Mercury.
I mean, I hope so. It would be a shame to go the whole show without seeing how they colonize Mercury, because realistically, it's too close to the sun. You can't live there. Just don't do it. But I think the back half is going to be, hopefully we see Mercury. I have to assume the back half is going to be mostly unraveling Prospera and Delling's, what I can only assume is somehow interrelated backstory. Like, they clearly know each other. They're clearly dealing with whatever this Quiet Zero thing is. So I think that's going to be the focus of the back half, plus patching up and putting back together the Suletta and Miorine relationships, given that she now thinks she's a murderer due to the pancake maneuver.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think we're going to spend some time on Earth.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yep. We haven't really been there yet, so...
I think we're going to... this is larger type prediction, but I predict they're going to Iron-Blooded Orphans us by giving us one huge fleet battle at the end.
Yeah.
So everything will be small, medium scale up until that huge fleet battle.
Yeah, I could see that.
I don't think Delling's gone.
No, I don't think so. I think we need to know more about him before he dies.
Yeah, I think he's down for the count. I can absolutely see him switching to the good guy's side, depending on who reveals to themselves to be the true villain.
Yeah, and it may not be like an actively participating role either. He might just be like, he's going to be hurt for a while, but he might just put all his resources behind Miorine.
Oh, God. She went from, like, thinking he's, like, the worst ever, to, like, now she's, like, really relying on him. You know, they had their little meeting, and he gave her advice on what to do and stuff. So...
Yeah, that's another thing about this show, Isaac. There's a lot of dad hate in this show, and as a dad, I feel attacked.
I mean, there's also a lot of dad killing.
That's true.
You should feel like your life is in peril, Brian.
I guess both of the hated dads are one is dead, and one's got a shrapnel through him, so...
God, the biggest piece of shrapnel you ever seen, too. Very smart that they didn't move it, though. You know, in a lot of anime and stuff, they're like, they pull out the weapon that's in you.
Yeah.
And then the person bleeds out. But I see him being interesting, if knocked out of commission anyways.
We'll probably have to learn what happened to Miorine's mother. I feel like we're going to learn that soon.
I just don't see the doctor coming back.
I don't know. Maybe she's sitting down there in Quiet Zero.
Where is she? They took her away to, like, do more research? But
yeah, maybe.
Whatever research she's doing, they're clearly not using, because, like, the Gundam was a surprise to them.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, that might torpedo my Cardo theory.
Yeah.
Unless he's been working on it in secret, and it's like a better Gundam, and that's what Quiet Zero is.
Oh, Brian, it's kind of like a double play. All the Gundam hate is to make sure nobody has anything close to the Gundam they've been building this whole time.
Right, that was one of our original theories, right? Of like, we don't like it because we want it, and only we want it.
Yeah. And they have a witch ready to go in the cockpit. Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know.
I see. So, wow. Banneret Group's going to take over the whole system. Okay.
Could be.
Interesting.
Isaac, what was your favorite mobile suit design from the show? And especially, what do you think about the aerial? I mean, that's our suit here. And the aerial rebuild, I guess.
It kind of grew on me. I mean, I wouldn't get the model. It'd have to be on discount. But I don't think it's terrible. You know, I actually kind of like the bits, how they had such a strong showing, and they really tore apart whoever they fought. Other than that, it's kind of pretty standard. Looking at it now, I do agree that it's a pretty feminine design, just the proportions and stuff, but definitely pleasantly surprised. How about you?
Yeah, I liked the area. I thought the bits were cool to watch. Like you said, the show is visually stunning, and the bits, I think, were a big part of that, because, you know, they would, like, form into different things. Like, that was really neat. We've never really seen that too much before. Mm-hmm. What do you think about the rebuild version of the aerial? To me, it looks like Unit 1 from 0083 when it got the upgrade on the moon, and it looks a little safer than the aerial design. It looks more Gundam-y than the normal aerial design.
Yeah, it's because of the shoulders, right?
Yeah.
That kind of,
Yeah.
they Nina Purpletoned it.
Yes, exactly. It got the Nina Purpleton upgrade pack.
Yeah, it's like, well, how do we make it better? Like, well, just put booster shoulder pads on it.
And make the gun bigger.
Yeah. Bigger gun, bigger fun. So
Trademark.
I think it might be a little too much blue. I kind of prefer the colors of the regular aerial, but it's not bad.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad. I just think it's safer. I have seen some people not like it as much as the first aerial, and I can understand that. But it definitely looks more Gundam-y, I think.
We've seen it before, so I don't blame people.
Yeah.
But right now, I think the Ferract is the most
Ferract,
interesting
okay.
design to me. It's like if Skeletor was given like the budget and an engineering team to make a Gundam. You know, he would have made that.
Skeletor. I could see that. I like the Ferract. I think it's good. I personally like the Garibaldi.
Really?
It's like the Gelgoog and Or Battler Dunbine had a baby, and that's the Garibaldi. I like it a lot. I think it's cool.
What do you think of the Mook? The Mook mobile suits we've seen, like I guess the ones that the grunts were using and the school was using.
So the training suits at the school were kind of whatever. Those were almost out of a different show altogether. The Desulters, I think, as they're called, that like Ghoul was his little squad was using at the end, and I guess the bad guys had them too, right? Because they stole them, or not the bad guys, but like Naji's team, that was not the witches, the other normal Earthians. They stole the Desulters, I guess, and were using them against Jeturk. Those I thought were fine. Those look cool. I thought you would probably like those. Do you like those?
Not really, actually. They felt too standardized for me, too boring.
Wow, too standard?
A little, well, okay, not too standardized, but I didn't like the colors. I got Gundam AGE flashbacks.
Oh, okay.
It's almost too exotic of a design that we've seen before, you know?
Well, which one are you thinking of? The purple ones, the green ones?
Yeah, first I was thinking the green ones, and then I thought of the purple ones.
Oh, okay.
So the green ones, like, they're from like Armored Core, right? We've seen that all before. The kind of purple ones were a little too exotic and wacky. They didn't feel Gundam-y to me.
The purple ones, they look neat, but they fall in the same category that we talked about in Iron-Blooded Orphans as those suits that are not the Gundams. That I feel like they're out of just Zone of the Enders, which they look really neat. I just don't think they mesh well with the show. They just look different. But maybe that's the point here. It comes from a different house. It was designed by a different person, so it looks different. So I mean, I buy that.
I guess, but sort of like Shadiq's mobile suit. Like, I didn't care for that at all. That looks like it's from a different show.
Yeah, that one looks like it's from Tekkaman. That's the Michaelis, I think it was called. Which, I like that one, but you're right. When you put it next to the Ariel, they just don't look like they go in the same show. I don't know.
Right. It's a great design for an anime series set, you know, in a different galaxy or something. But I don't think that belongs in Gundam. Too alien. Yeah.
Yeah. But see, the Garibaldi, I could see that being a post-Neo-Zeon suit.
Actually, yeah. Yeah, just because of the dimensions, right?
Yeah. I feel like the head is very Zeon. Or like late Zeon, you know?
Almost too big, though, right? Like...
It is a little big. I don't know about the thing, that little circle thing in the back. That's unnecessary. You need to drop that. But everything else looks pretty good.
I don't know. At a certain point, it was just too big, I felt. Too wide. You know, even, say what you will about the Doms and the Domtropins, but they don't even have that much of, like, a width to them.
Are you saying you have a thickness limit? Is that what you're telling me now?
There is a thickness limit, Brian.
Well, I think the Delanza is, like, way past the thickness limit.
Yeah. I don't even like the colors, though, either, you know?
No, Gule's Delanza was horrendous.
I also don't like the feather that it has.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I understand what they were doing by putting a feather in it, right? To, you know, make it look interesting and stuff. But if you think about it, the scale of that feather, it's massive. Like, it wouldn't work, right? It's like...
Well, yeah, what is it made out of?
It would be like a Gundam holding like a proportional like flag, you know, like an American flag. Like that flag would just hang straight down because of the scale of the weight at that point, you know? Like nothing's going to flow in the wind.
You ever been to the zoo, Isaac?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You ever go to the flamingo exhibit? There's like hundreds of flamingos in the flamingo exhibit.
Right, yeah.
You'd have to kill the entire exhibit of flamingos and more to make the feather
right
on Gules de Lanza's head.
Yeah, absolutely. And He might have only had one because they cut it in half. Right?
Yeah, I think it got tossed. Thankfully, that suit never came back. I think he's a full-time in the Garibaldi now, so.
No, that wasn't the right color, I felt, too, for him.
Oh, red? Yeah.
Yeah, well, the kind of magenta-y thing, you know.
Oh, yeah, sorry, the Delonza. Yeah, his Delonza was the pink magenta, but his Garibaldi's red. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe you could say they even split Char 3 ways. They gave him the red suit.
True.
Prospera the mask, and Shadiq the physical look.
They took it away from him, right?
Yeah, I assume he's going to get it back.
Yeah. Or Shadiq will get it. Ooh.
Yeah, maybe.
Gil was the only one that wore his jacket like that, which is, from what I remember reading in Japanese culture, like that's the bully way of wearing your jacket, the bad boy way of wearing your jacket.
Oh yeah, maybe like a disrespectful way, kind of.
Yeah, everybody else is in uniform, and then that style's stereotypically, I think in manga and anime, it's always like the bad boy of the campus or something.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, we definitely got interesting and different designs. So I applaud the series for that. I didn't like all of them, but definitely a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, they were all different, and I'm sure that was their goal. Not too many, though. I feel like maybe we're just skewed because we just watched Victory, because when that had a new suit every episode. Whereas this show, I feel like, I'm looking here, I only got 10 on my list. Given all the characters, that's actually not that many. I think I left a few out, like the trainee one and the whatever the Zawart was. I didn't have that on my list, but so not too many. But I think overall it was pleasant to look at, pleasant to watch. So I think that was the goal.
Well, besides Ariel, any that you'd want, gunpla wise?
I would build the Garibaldi, yeah, if you gave me 100,
really,
or 100 one of that. The Ferract is pretty cool. I think the Ferract would look really cool as a model because you could paint those red pieces like a really bright red, almost.
They'll just pop.
Yeah, you could even get like the glow in the dark paint. That'd be sweet.
You know what's cool about the Garibaldi is like, I can't think of the last mobile suit I've seen that had the rhino type horn. It's very Beetleborg.
It is a little Beetleborg, yeah. It kind of reminds me of the name escapes me right now.
The bad guy in Beetleborg.
What was the bad guy's name again? All I can think of is Flabber.
No, okay, oh god. Red evil Triceratops guy. I forgot his name.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Which was such a weird thing to make a villain, the Triceratops.
Yeah. I mean, Ninja Turtles kind of did it first, but...
That's true. The whatever they were, Saurians, I think.
Yeah, I forget their names.
I think it was Nukas. Nukas was his name, I think.
Nukas? That's a weird name.
Yep, that was him, Nukas. Yeah.
What a theme song.
Yeah. And
Big Bad Beetleborgs.
We have to compete with Power Rangers. It didn't work out.
No, it didn't work. But yeah, I think I would build the Ferract. I would build the Garibaldi. The rest, not so much. Ariel's, it's cool. If you gave it to me, I'd build it. I wouldn't go buy it.
Yeah,
I'm a little disappointed in the other witch suits, Isaac. I hope those get better upgrades in the back half.
I mean, they have to be destroyed, but yes, they're just so bland.
They're very, very bland. I would have hoped that they were equally as visually appealing as the Ariel.
They're just so blocky, for Gundams, and I see what you mean about the proportions, just because, like, especially the brown one, it's just too squat.
I don't even remember it looking like that in the show, but yeah.
No, well, with movement, it moves so much, and then you view the actual, like, art itself, and you're like, wow, this thing should still move. But wow, I thoroughly enjoy these 12 episodes. It's a breath of fresh air. It was a fun ride, and I absolutely think anyone listening to us right now should try to make time, if they like Gundam, to watch these 12 episodes.
Agreed. So listeners, let us know what you thought about the first half, and probably let us know what you thought about the back half, given that by the time I edit this, the show will be over, and we will be probably recording the back half review. So, that's the thing I left out, Isaac. I hope in the back half we get a cliffhanger, and they announce a season 2. So that's what I would want.
Yep, season 2, season 3, to make it happen.
Oh, should we even rate the first half, Isaac?
I think, that's a good question. I say we go for it because we're at this point in the journey. They clearly put like a hard stop at the end of the season. Let's do it.
All right, you go first.
All right, Brian. I will give The Witch from Mercury 4 out of 5 Haros.
I agree. I would also give it an 8 out of 10 on my scale. And I think the reason for that, Isaac, is it's been great, but I think we're missing some really big backstory and world building things, and I don't really think it's a complete story until we get those, so I hope we get that in the back half.
It's going to be a fun ride. I want to explore the mysteries. It's really interesting, and I say all full speed ahead.
Agreed. Isaac, take us away.
All right, listeners, before you go to sleep tonight, stand next to your bed, get on your knees, put your hands together, look up at the ceiling, and hail the Bennett Group.
Good night, everybody.